We're going to have Elder Duquette smudge for our upcoming reveal here, please.
Aya, tamaga ki o gaitam skat na o nunchuta gatis kisikak. Ina he mo yan este pakinggaw yan o takapewi tapnutapuk kakagis mustamata ko kitwe kichinat. Usam oma kakatu tamaki we pogo wait na kabam tene ma akseman to kawichi we ta to kisika o ki we kawi tutama. Uya ip motestama we. Yuksaya ego mocha kawi mia kasiki aka no sota mia no. Yuksaya is naipa igamma. Kigo iwi tutama wawait na kate parta aksemanto. Umotas ki ka ni poya kawi chihuya kia no kaya spitochi gi pipi tuwi chigota ntai sinim nanak ne hiyo kai sigasu. We all tegi pe mote chigoma aski et motata ke. Pamois munya kai te tako te tota. Moino skemanan. Aga etako te gi atam skawanan miano. Kapiwi chiwea, kapiwi tapungwea, pugui sisi. Maga mwekso chis pain. Pitos kisa waskawewak. Ego most me akachikan kapachita. Good afternoon, everyone. Just to say hello and welcome. And traditionally, I always use my first language as my identity, who I am as a Nehio. I'll get you to go around smudging. Yes, brother here. You might not need it. So that's my introduction, because my language, my identity, who I am as an Nehio, was given to me by my ancestors when they roamed the land here. When they traveled, walked the land, however they did. And what they used for sustenance, how they survived through even the long winters, eh? How did they survive, eh? What was their sustenance when they were hungry? What did they do, eh? What was their purpose in life? What was their purpose here on the land? Nehio, the word, means the people of the land, eh? The people of the land, that's what it means. Because it identifies a people that will go back to the land when they die, eh? And that's how we are. Even I believe it's written in the Bible as well, you know, how it was brought to us by that. Eh? Before we knew that, we were already doing our practices, eh? Our ceremonies. Spiritually was a big part of our life, eh? And we always use that means of helping people, eh? Inclusion. It was always that for the community, for the visiting communities or away from our territory, eh? When we did that, we always were welcome, because we didn't bring anything to another different territory, because we didn't know their teachings, we didn't know their ceremonies, we didn't know their language. So we went there, we had to surrender all our like myself, for example, I have to leave my medicine bundle at home, eh? And my laws, my teachings, before I go to another community, eh? Another territory even. So all those, you know, they were held together in reverence for that knowledge that we had, eh? Even though Presumably I knew a lot, for example, but I couldn't go to another territory and tell, oh, this is how we do it, you should do this. Oh, no, don't do this, No. You were desecrating that community if you did that. Now it's a little different, eh? We have scientists, we have people that are, that do a lot of things, They say, oh, okay, this is how it should be done, eh? Policies, always play a big role in our lives that sometimes don't apply to us, eh? But we have to sometimes conform to that, eh? And that's where sometimes, when we template something in life, there's always little things happening, eh? Because restrictions from those times are going to be difficult even to us, eh? So we always know that we have to be so super careful, when we do that. You destroy a nation of people if you do that, eh? And sometimes when you template everything, even the laws, they compound the laws, If you break a leg, a certain way, they'll put a law on that, You can't break a leg here now, eh? So they make it a law, eh? In our culture, we only have two laws that I carry. It's the natural law and the spiritual law. Now, we cannot lose either one of those two when we start talking about our laws or how we discipline our people, eh? Not in a sense of discipline, but that's not the word. There's a kisiskâciwan, maybe help somebody's, something they did wrong according to society. For us, we always try and understand why behaviors develop into that way of crime, like a crime cycle. Eh? Now it's very predominant, how those crime cycles develop. Eh? Of course, dynamics from residential school, 60s coup, all those things, they create all those things, because poverty comes from there, racism, discrimination, because we're labeled as the drunks, the crime people, but it's not our fault. We inherited those attitudes because we were imprisoned in residential school. For me, I don't call it a school, I call it a residence, a residential facility, to house a bunch of kids, a bunch of people that, don't know anything about religion, don't know anything about culture in the white system. I always open up talks like that for the people that don't understand us, because I have to be honest, I have to tell the truth of what happened. I'm still a survivor of the residential school system. I'm 81 years old, and I still carry that. I walk with that story, alive and well, as we say. So I'm not ashamed to talk about it because I want people to know, a few surviving members like me, to know that that's how it was, the atrocities. Even the name was taken away. We were given numbers. 595 was my number. That's what I carried for 13 years in that school. Because I couldn't use my name. Every time 595 came up, I had to raise my hand and say, yes, master. Believe that, So there's underlying things, that still haunt me, but not in a sense to break me down. I keep walking, because I'm resilient enough that I'm able to walk because I have tools now. I carry your language. I use your language. I use your systems, to survive. And I'm glad I did. A lot of my people couldn't do that because there was still too much pain too much atrocities happening. I went through all those things that happened in the residential school, like sexual abuse. For 8 years I was a victim. I always thought it was my fault, you know. They were punishing me for something I don't remember doing. So we live with those. I still live with that pain, but I do pain management. Today I'm happy, I'm well, I have grandkids, great grandkids, I have a wife, a loving wife, and all those things, and I have friends, you know, that I interact with. I've developed friendships that are genuine to me. And that's what I want to send a message, you know, that days like that will never happen again. To our children, to our grandchildren, or, you know, the ones that are not born yet, as we say all the time. So we carry that awareness. How much can this survivor take? I can take a lot. I took a lot of abuse. I learned not to cry when I was punished. I've learned that. If I deserved it, maybe I cried. But if my grandmother said something to me to correct me, I would cry, because it hurt more, when the grandmother disciplines you in certain ways. And I love my grandmother so much. The person said, you know, who was your first love? I just right now I answered, said, my grandmother was my first love, because she loved me dearly. And I loved her so much. I used to look at her, you know, she was a tall woman. I used to look at her and amazed, you know, just, you know, awestruck. How she loved me, even her touch. So that was my first love. We always say my wife, or my husband. No, she was my first love. So I just thought I'd share those little, you know, personal moments with all of you, because, you know, we need to hear that. And when we talk about the land, you know, kianoma, we are the land. When we die, we turn to, say, dust. We learned that before science gave us that. We were never buried underground. We were you know, we had our ceremony in a scaffold. That's how it was for us. We were closer to Creator. We weren't put in a place where we were held tight, you know. We're a commodity now, When we go to when we die, we pay for a lot, we pay for everything, And then we're forgotten, So many years later. I told my wife, I said, I want to be buried in a wooden box, maybe enough to cover the box. I said, that's my request when I die. I don't want a coffin, I said. So I have a request like that too. I talk about it, because my ancestors didn't want that closer tight. Everything was. Maybe there's a reason why I'm talking like this. Maybe there's a reason why I'm sending out messages. To our systems. I do not prepay for my lot wherever I'm gonna be buried. We need to hear these things as well. Sometimes we're scared to talk about them. We're scared, oh geez, let's not talk about that. Fear, We create our own fears. So I want to thank you all for that, and thanks for accepting the smudge and everything else. The smudge is a cleansing. It clears your mind, it clears your sinuses even, Especially this sage here, it's called a California sage, very potent, but yet very familiar smelly odor. When we take that, when you have a really sinuses, you inhale that, it'll clear them real right now. And also I used to use that for when I was a long distance runner, by the way. I ran marathons and things like that, in my time. In 2005, I ran 36 marathons of distance from the Northwest Territories to the North Dakota border. So that gives you an idea how we need to live healthy, all of us. We need to be aware of how our body, looks after. We are responsible for that, all of us. Like me at 81 years old, I feel good in, my diet as well. I eat a lot of protein because I'm losing muscle mass, at my age. So I like my wild meat. Yeah. But anyway, the cleansing part of that smudge, is more for you to hear something that it's going to be good, to see, things that are going to be what you, not pick and choose or not selective, and what you hear is something that you always not selective hearing again. Sometimes we tend to do that, and that's kind of not fair to people that are talking. And from your heart, how do you feel? What is your feeling of that? Do you have any animosity towards anybody, or did you get angry at your family, or did you do something that is, kind of, lateral violence in the workplace? We have to watch those things. The more we do those things, in a negative way, we start aging quick. The aging process takes over. That's why I'm always subtle. I'm always. I don't get excited. I don't worry about things. Like my truck is in the shop right now. My mechanic said it's going to cost you about $5,000. He said, "Oh, that's okay." I said, "Do it." See, we live by faith and believing. Things will work out. I don't worry about. But if it was somebody in my family or somebody that I knew was really sick, then I would worry. That would be my main, thing to help. We always, the differences that we do. Material things are really nothing. We can't take them away. But people, friendships, good energy is the best. The best medicine. Like the new president that came to visit us. They asked me what I thought of him. I said, he's our medicine. I said, he's the one that's going to know, how he's going to heal people in different ways. Mind, soul, body, whatever. That's how I look at him. When we start thinking like that, we can go to that person for, maybe something that's really bothering you. Say, this is what I feel. And that the response might be what you need to hear. Even in the workplace, we're all healers, because we heal our children, we heal our spouses. That's the good part. If we're abusive, then there's really, not good. So with that, I think we'll just carry on with what we're going to be doing here, and I'll let the pros, do their work.
Thank you, Dr. Cass.
Yeah, thank you.
Being here.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for being here for the Pharmacy and Nutrition Land Acknowledgement Reveal. And we are going to get going right away with the opening land acknowledgement, and Dean Jane Alphonse agreed to do that for us.
Thanks, Elder Duquette. I agree with you. Life's too short to worry about things that are not particularly relevant. Before I open up today with our land acknowledgement, I do think we need to acknowledge the work of the committee. And so I do want to recognize and express my deep appreciation, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of the rest of us, for the thoughtful and dedicated work that went into this. Your efforts in crafting a meaningful and respectful land acknowledgement for our college deeply reflects the commitment to truth and reconciliation. This work invites us to reflect on our responsibilities to honor Indigenous histories and futures, and to ensure our academic community continues to move forward with humility, respect, and intention. So on behalf of the college, thank you all for your leadership and your care in guiding us through this very important process. Okay, so I will read our land acknowledgement. Located on Treaty 6 territory and homeland of the Métis, we pay our respect to the First Nations and Métis ancestors of this place and reaffirm our relationship with one another. We work to better understand the ongoing impacts of colonization on the land and to all of the Indigenous people who call Kisiskâciwan home. We strive to listen and learn our responsibility to mending these relationships. We are committed to the truth and work towards mending these colonized lands.
That's too noisy.
That brings us to the purpose of our land acknowledgement. As members of the College of Pharmacy and Nutrition, we desire to acknowledge, appreciate, and understand the meaning and importance of the land on which we live, work, and study. Applying a college-specific lens in looking at the meaning of the land, we aim to create a space for mutual respect, understanding, and integrity. The land acknowledgement was developed in a good way with Indigenous elders and knowledge keepers, faculty and staff to enhance the college commitment to reconciliation. We are committed to digging deeper into knowing how the land acknowledgement can be a great starting point for understanding the truth and engaging in reconciliation. Our land acknowledgement is an old tradition and a way for visitors to show respect and surrender to the people of the land. It has been a way for us as visitors here to strive for understanding of the Indigenous people we are engaging with. It recognizes the strength and wisdom of the place that has given rise to the people of the land. Furthermore, we've identified 5 key themes that help us respect the parallels between our curriculum and traditional Indigenous practices that utilize food and medicine for healing and spiritual well-being. We are committed in the spirit of truth to work towards mending these colonized lands with the goal of reconciliation.
Thanks, Jason. With these 5 key themes, we're having some of the committee members come up and read each one of the themes. So, are you first?
Yeah, is that okay with you?
Absolutely. We'll just get some of these out of the way.
Okay, so the first of the 5 themes is people of the land. So we acknowledge that the College of Pharmacy and Nutrition at the University of Saskatchewan is situated on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional land of the Cree, Saulteaux, Nakota, Lakota, and Dakota people, and the homeland of the Métis. We pay our respects to the First Nations and Métis ancestors of this land as being grounded with Mother Earth. Their deep knowledge in traditional medicines and healing practices continues to enrich our understanding of how to provide care in a good way.
The medicine wheel. We recognize the interconnectedness of physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health as symbolized by the medicine wheel. In our commitment to fostering holistic approaches to healthcare, we acknowledge the wisdom of Indigenous teachings and invite them to guide our practices.
Cultural and traditional practices. We commit to ongoing dialogue, learning, and collaboration, guided by principles of reconciliation and mutual respect. As a college, we strive to ensure all people have access to culturally appropriate and equitable healthcare services.
Medicine and healing. We acknowledge that pharmacy, nutrition, and Indigenous healing traditions share a common goal of promoting health and well-being, and we honor the diverse ways of healing that have sustained communities for generations in Saskatchewan.
Lastly, food is medicine. We acknowledge that food is medicine, a principle deeply rooted in Indigenous culture in Treaty 6 territory. In educating future pharmacists and dietitians, we strive to integrate this belief into our curriculum and work, recognizing the importance of dietary practices and the healing properties of foods.
Thank you, committee members. One of the things that we have put on our agenda for the land acknowledgement reveal is providing some statements of reflection. Some people of the Pharmacy and Nutrition Department attended Batoche Historical Site, and some great reflections and commitment statements came out of that. So we're going to provide some of those right now. What follows are reflections from members of the pharmacy and nutrition community after our recent visit to Batoche. These voices have been woven together to reflect our shared path toward the future rooted in mutual respect and partnership through truth and reconciliation. We are grateful for the opportunity to walk on Treaty 6 territory, the homeland of the Métis, and to experience Saskatchewan landscape together during this meaningful visit. So one of the questions on the survey that was provided to all attendees was, what moments during the tour stood out for you and why? These are two of the statements that were provided. As I looked across the field where the Battle of Batoche took place and reflected on the courage needed to preserve one's way of life and to die for one's sense of belonging, was profoundly humbling. And one of the other statements was, our guide at the church mentioned Saskatchewan being an intersection of history among many different cultures, Indigenous, Métis, and settler, and that resonated with me. We'll have Jenna now read one of the next questions.
Okay. Another question that was asked is, what stories or perspectives challenge your previous understanding of Canadian history? We have here a quote that says, I have a new understanding of the efforts and initiatives to Métis culture, including connecting the people, the bison, and filling in the gap that is made over centuries. And as a whole, there was a comment here that Batoche challenged us to think differently about Canadian history. For some, it was the first time learning about how families built their lives here. And for others, it was a reminder of the government's overwhelming force and the tragic loss that followed. Hearing stories of resilience, community pride, and ongoing efforts to preserve Métis culture gave us a fuller, more balanced understanding, one that goes beyond deficit narratives to highlight strength and continuity. The film and the stories we heard made history come alive, showing us how easily it could be lost if it is not preserved. Altogether, these perspectives deepened our appreciation of the richness of Saskatchewan's past and the importance of keeping these stories alive.
One of the questions was, in what ways did the land itself, its natural features, sacred spaces, and historical markers speak to you during your visit? One of the answers was, I found it powerful to stand by the church and rectory at Batoche and see the hill over which Canadian government troops advanced, because of different topology may have determined a different battle. Having lived on the prairies my entire life, I often don't appreciate its beauty and resources. The setting was serene and peaceful. The land of Batoche spoke to us in powerful ways. Standing by the church and the very hill where the troops once advanced made its history feel real, while the river and prairie reminded us of how they built the community and life along its banks. Many of us were struck by the beauty and resilience of the land, from the wide open skies to the bison that endured extremes of heat and cold, reminding us of the strength of both the prairie and the people who call it home. The visit helped us see the land not just for the scenery, but as sacred, living history that connects the past and the present. It left us with gratitude, energy, and a renewed sense of responsibility to preserve and honor it.
One of the final questions is, reflect on how Métis voices and experiences are represented and why they matter in land acknowledgements. We are all creatures of Mother Earth. We all have a place. Our connection to Mother Earth binds us all, and no person or group or of people should feel like they do not have a place. We need to be reminded of the fact that we are all intertwined, and this land land acknowledgements reflect this.
And then the last question. After experiencing Batoche and the National Historic Site there and the Dumont Lodge, what personal or community-based commitments can you make to ensure that the land acknowledgements are followed by meaningful engagement and support for Indigenous voices? So a few quotes here. Reconciliation is a responsibility we all have to bear, and I will find pathways to reconciliation in the work I do at the college. Another is, as I've learned, you can't have reconciliation without first learning and understanding the truth. My commitment is to continue to learn, make relationships, and respond in a way that is authentic to those relationships. And then lastly, our visit to Batoche reminded us that reconciliation is both a personal and collective responsibility. Many of us committed to deepening our learning through Indigenous authors, cultural events like Back to Batoche, and community initiatives that honor Métis and Indigenous voices and First Nations peoples. Others spoke of sharing what we've learned with students, friends, and family, supporting Indigenous-owned businesses, and building authentic relationships that move beyond words to action. Together, these commitments reflect a desire to ensure land acknowledgements are not just spoken statements, but living practices that promote respect, understanding, and meaningful engagement. And I would like to thank everybody who contributed to those reflections and shared the day with us at Batoche at the end of August. We'll maybe put up Jason's video here that shows a bit of the highlights from the day that he put together. And I think I would just personally say that leaving this, I hope you all continue to reflect on your role in how you're going to contribute to reconciliation and decolonization within our college. And just, I'd invite you to engage with our committee, certainly bring up ideas that you have, and join the committee if you have an interest. Certainly, we're always looking for engaged membership. And yeah, I think that probably wrap up.
And certainly
my
encourage
reflections.
everyone to go to Batoche.
Yeah, last but not least, yeah. So, yeah. Sure. Elder Scott, would you like to provide some closing statements for us?
Maybe before I do that, around the room here, anyone has a question about anything about me or what's in your mind that's kind of a burning question? Anybody? No question is, yes.
I'll just ask you, what's your thoughts on these land acknowledgements in general? Like, is it something that you welcome? Is it, if someone just reads a statement, is that as good as like reflecting on that, what it means to them? Or?
Again, I'll go back to my statement earlier when I said about a template. We need to get away from that. We need to have our own land acknowledgement, our own idea where it comes from. Because all individuals have different ideas of things that they interact with or heard or seen, about the land. So that's your gift to yourself. Because when we start, how far is it going to go if there's going to be other stuff happening in a land acknowledgement? Already it said Treaty 6 territory, so it gives you that onus to where you are in the territory, how it was born out of treaty. So you use your own thought, your own feeling. Nothing is inappropriate if you do it. So always keep in mind, we're all individuals. we don't wanna, create any, well, it says here, no, how do you feel? So that's my comment on that, because it's so important, to know how we walk our land, what's your ideals from your home, from your family tree, for example. How does it apply to here? Because you're a treaty person, So that inclusion I talked about as well, it is very, very important and sensitive, for everyone to understand that, where we are, where we walk, where we put our footprint, on the land, The land is the most important, We have to realize that. Without Mother Earth, how can we survive, What's gonna sustain us, So we all have to be so cognizant of everything, that what you step on, Walk one day out on the land without your socks, just walk it, for about even half an hour, Find out, you're gonna feel yourself, something there that's gonna, maybe, you can't figure out, what is this feeling coming on me, Because that's how powerful our land is, Maybe that's why we're protected by Mother Earth, through all these atrocities happening in other lands, even our next door neighbor. So we have to be understanding in that way of using our own spirituality as we walk every day. Our children, walk with your children. Get a sense of awareness that, what you have, it's say you're safe. That's how mothers are. They make sure their children are safe. There's no difference. Even the bison, they do the same thing. Whenever I go visit my brothers, I feel, they come to me right away. They know. They trust me. And that's how we need to do as well as trust each other. Make sure everyone is safe. Your neighbor is safe. Your community is safe. Those are what we call the natural laws, that I talked about. How can you lose, We can't compound, other laws to make that, aware, why this is what it says on page 2, 1A, all the bullets that you see, nobody can remember those, But it's only your feeling, what you see, what you feel, Like a mother, what does a mother do, Always being aware, maybe right now they're thinking of their kids right now, Their children, are they safe, are they okay? No matter what, But only Creator looks after that, Our job here is to dialogue about things in life, about cultures, about different nations of people, that we need to understand that, Not marginalize, Whose words are not in our vocabulary, I just use that as a borrowed word for me that I knew what it means, In my language, what I talked earlier when I opened this here, I made mention for you, all of you to hear a language that is, we call it, Cree is called a sacred language in my culture. That's what it means. This language that I spoke, our ancestors told us, the most sacred language you can hear, because it's not harsh, It's got a sense of, you want to listen to it, And you feel it. If you don't understand it, when you close your eyes, there's a sense of something you sense, So that's kind of what I always do that, and everywhere I go, I open up with everything with my first language. And I really love that, because acceptance is very important for me as well. If there's any critics around, I don't feel good when somebody tells me, well, why did you talk your language, it doesn't exist anymore. No. it's alive and well. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, okay.
Do you still run a lot?
I do, yeah. Actually, I had a knee operation a year ago, and they put a titanium plate on my knee, so I'm gonna try it out.
Okay.
But,
Call me.
yeah, okay. Actually, I have dogs at home, miniature dogs. I have a Shih Tzu. That's my therapy dog, for the, for my healing. And I use we have 3 dogs, so we take them for a walk. Me and my wife. Starting to walk a little bit better. So that's I might be training. I said I might for the spring marathon.
Yeah.
At least I want to put one more in my feather cap.
I do have a more serious question.
Okay.
You know, in the rooms, we have the land acknowledgement and whatnot. What are things that we can do when we are at home with our family to work towards reconciliation? We talk about it in this setting, but what can I do at home with my family, with my children, the day-to-day stuff?
Mhm. Well, first of all, like I said, take them on the land, first of all. Get a feel, what did you feel? How is it for you when you're walking barefoot? And also, ask them, what's the talk in the school grounds? What's the talk about Indigenous people? That way you get an honest answer, because kids are so honest. I love it. So, yeah, that's another thing you can do. Maybe talk to your neighbors and, just casually, and not to create any open something, just casually. This is what I learned about Indigenous people. This is what I learned, about their ways. I heard a language today I never heard, even that itself. If you're interested, we can, I'll take it to that old man. Yeah.
Thank you.
And maybe one more,
Any more questions?
When I was an alcoholic, I used to say, well, one more. No, I was just kidding. I heard that on TV. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. In closing, in an era of increasing awareness and recognition of Indigenous rights and cultures, and establishing an Indigenous Initiatives Committee within a college has become a crucial step towards inclusivity, equity, and understanding. This committee plays a pivotal role in acknowledging and respecting the unique perspectives, histories, and contributions of Indigenous communities. By creating a platform for dialogue, education, and empowerment, the committee works to bridge the gap between Indigenous and non-Indigenous staff, students, and faculty, while promoting the revitalization and preservation of Indigenous knowledge, languages, and traditions. Through its initiatives, the committee not only enriches the college community, but also contributes to the broader process of decolonization, reconciliation, and building a more equitable society. Thank you everyone for attending, and for those that are online, I see that there's about 6 attendees. And
I think I'm gonna send out a link to that, Natasha, maybe this one.
Jason will send out a link. We had a circulating video of all the different things that happened at Patosh, and there's a few other ones that Jason so graciously put together, but we'll send the link out so everybody can view it. And there are a few beverages and some bannock and jam for those that are here to enjoy. So take some time and chat amongst yourselves, and thank you again for coming.